Hello and welcome to this new lesson in which we are going to handle the PHP HTTP request or post. We are gonna create a new script. So let's go back here and click Tools, go to your file manager, and this is the place where you can upload files. You can click here and start uploading files to your website. As you can see, go here to the file manager, and once you are in this window, in this section we are going to create a PHP script that is responsible for receiving incoming requests from the ESP32 board, and it will be also responsible for inserting the data into MySQL database, the one that we just created here. And if you are using a hosting provider with a cPanel like this one, you can simply navigate to the file manager the way I did, then select public HTML option. Now this folder, double click it. Once you are in this folder, click the plus sign and create a new file. Now it will ask you to name the new file. So what you need to do is call it post data.php. It will be a PHP file and it will post data to the ESP database. So click create. This is our first PHP file. Now to edit this file and to enter your code, you can simply click on it and click the edit sign. Now you can write your PHP code here in this window, but first let's write it on another editor, then we can copy and paste the code to this window. Let's download the Sublime text editor. It's a very sophisticated text editor that you can use to write codes. Okay, it will take a second to download. As you can see, it has a graphical and coloring. You can easily write codes and it will auto-complete the codes while you write, and you can search the code. So I really recommend it when you write any type of code. It supports almost all of the programming languages. Okay, that's it. Now open the setup file, click yes. Okay, next. That's it. Now go to the start menu, click Sublime text. Now this is it. You can use the control button and the mouse scroll to increase the font size, and to choose the programming language that you are dealing with. You can simply do that by go to the view, and from the syntax you can check any programming language that you are going to write your code in, and in our case it will be PHP. Now the first thing that you need to do when you are creating a new PHP file is write PHP, and this is called the tag, and you need to close it once you create it. Now we need to pass the first variable, which is server name, and the server name will be localhost, just like in our text file. Let me check. Okay, let me open up the text file, and as you can see, use localhost as a connection host name. So the server name will be localhost. Now the next step will be assigning the database name and username and password. So add the $sign and write dbname, and here you need to pass the name, and we also need to pass the username database username and the database password. And these values we are gonna get from the text file that we did use. This is the password and this is the username and this is the database name. Now we usually have a prefix before this, but we will go back to that at the end of coding session. Now what we are doing is creating an API. So we are gonna create a special key that no one knows and use it for our API to allow connection between ESP and our PHP or our website. So write the $sign and write API underscore key underscore value, and here you can write any key value. Let's copy this and paste it here, and we are gonna use the same code in our ESP coding process, just like we did in our password. We did copy and paste the password exactly the same as in our website. So this will be a special key that will be used in ESP code. Now the API key will pass few variables, and these variables will be the sensor variable. Okay, let me add the $sign sensor. And to get these variables, we need to go back to our code. Let me open up the SQL database. As you can see, this is the code that we did execute, and we need to get the names from the table here. So we need the sensor data. We can copy it from here and paste it here, and we will also need the remaining variables. So let's copy all of them and let's paste them here. Okay, add a $sign equal and $sign before each one of these. Okay, now the API key will pass all of these variables, and at the end add equal, and let's pass them as empty text. Now we need to ask if there is a post request, and since most of you won't be familiar with PHP, I will paste the code and I'll explain it. Now as you can see here we have if statement. If the server received a post request, then check the API key. If it matches the API key that we have here, which is this one, then start taking values. As you can see, here we have the sensor data, which is the first value on our table. The second value is the table or the location data, and the value 1, value 2, and value 3 plus the reading time. Now the reading time will automatically be created by the server, since we did make it auto created in our SQL query, so we don't have to pass the ID or the reading time. So that's why we are only passing these values. So these values, the ID and the reading time, won't be passed because they will be automatically created by our website once it receives a new data. So it will name it 1 and will write the time, then it will write down these values that it did receive from the ESP board. This is the code to check the post request. Now to create a connection for the database, we need to use this code. As you can see, this is a variable called conn from connection, and it's creating a new object from the MySQL database object, and it's taking server name, username, password, and database name. These values are entered here, as you can see. So if any of these values is wrong, there will be no connection with the database. So if you did pass the right values, the connection will be established. Otherwise, it will print out connection failed, as you can see in this message. Now, moving on, after creating a connection with the database, we need to start passing the values. Now, to start passing the values to the SQL database, we need to use the insert, let's say insert command. And as you can see, the insert will insert these values: the sensor, the location, the value 1, value 2, and value 3, which are basically these values that it did take from this API connection. So the values will be written, and this SQL query will be executed, which will basically insert these values into the table, and we are gonna create another PHP file to display these values. But for now, this is basically an SQL query that passes the values of the sensor, location, value 1, value 2, and value 3. Now, the next step will be to check if a new record was successfully created in our database or not after we passed these values. So to do that, what we need to do is check with an if statement. This if statement will ask if there is a connection to the SQL, and if it is true, it means that new record was created successfully. If there is any problem, the record won't be created and will print out an error. You don't have to memorize any of these things, you just need to copy and paste, but you have to know what you are copying and pasting. Now, once you are done with the query, you need to close the connection. So we will close the connection using connection close method. Otherwise, we need to echo that we have received a wrong API key. So if the insert didn't work and we didn't get the data, this means that the API key that we did receive is wrong, and in that case it won't allow us to take the sensor and location and values data. So it will print out wrong API key provided, and this is for debugging purpose. You won't see it on your screen, and I will show you how to see it in case if there is any problem. Now, there is another scenario where no data is posted with HTTP post. If the ESP board is offline or if it is not sending any data, we have to print that no data was received to make sure that the user knows that we didn't get any data from the ESP board and it's not an API key problem. Now, there is a function that we can use, which is to test input and to make sure that this input is right. Now, this function will test the input and make sure that the input was written correctly and was passed correctly. Now, as you can see, the test input will take the data as input and it will trim anything that is not considered data. Then it will make some adjustment and return the data that we need, which is basically the sensor or the reading or the character. So if there is any other space in the incoming data, it will remove it, and it will remove any special characters and pass only the values that we want. And this function was called in our code here, as you can see. So when we receive the API key, we are making sure that we receive the key without any spaces or any special key that might be wrong or that might be passed in a wrong way. So it's very important to pass this or to use this function. I will provide you with the full code so that you can copy and paste the code, and you need to make sure that you change these values depending on your code. So you'll change the ESP database name, ESP board, and the password and the API key value depending on your readings, so that this code can be usable for you. That's it for this lesson. Now, one last step is basically select the code, select all, copy, and go to your File Manager, paste the code, and click Save. As you can see, this is our code. Click Save and Close. Now you have this file with your code. But before saving the file, you need to make sure that you did modify the database name, the username, and the password variables with your unique details. After adding database name, username, and password, save the file just like I did, and continue with the course instruction. If you try to access your domain name using this file, you can see the following result. The first step is go and copy your website URL. As you can see, this is your website URL. Now add slash, and you need to write the same name, post data.php. So post-data.php. Now, as you can see, no data posted with HTTP post, because we haven't yet posted any data. If you did get this message, it means that you have done everything correctly and that you have write your code correctly. Now, in the next lesson, we are gonna write a PHP script to display database content. But that's it for this lesson. Thanks for watching. If you have any question, please ask in the Q&A board.